The desert son of Midian has been the only ruler I've ever truly known. Its rise and fall dictate the rhythm of our lives, the ebb and flow of our duties. As a daughter of Jethro, a priest of Midian, my days are a tapestry woven with specific threads, tending the flocks, drawing water from the well, listening to the ancient stories whispered on the wind. There is a comfort in this routine, a certainty in the path laid out before me. My world, while vast under the open sky, is contained, familiar, the bleating of the sheep, the laughter of my sisters, the deep, wise voice of my father. These are the sounds of my life. I know every rock and every thorny bush on the path to the well. I know the scent of the dry earth just before the rare desert rain. This is my home, my identity. I am Zipporah, daughter of Midian. Then he arrived. It was a day like any other, the heat shimmering above the sand as my sisters and I led our flocks to the well. We were used to the rough shepherds who often tried to drive us away, but this day was different. A man, an Egyptian by his bearing but with the weary eyes of a fugitive, stood against them. He wasn't one of us. His features were foreign, his clothes tattered, but there was a fire in him, a quiet strength that was both intimidating and deeply compelling. He didn't just fend off the shepherds. He drew water for our flock, an act of kindness from a complete stranger. As I watched him, a strange conflict stirred within me. My father had taught us to be wary of outsiders, to protect our family and our traditions. Yet, my curiosity was a wild thing, untamed. Who was this man? What storms had he weathered to wash up on the shores of our quiet life? His name, he told my father later, was Moses. A name that meant nothing to me then, but would come to mean everything. He spoke of Egypt, of a life he had fled, of a past shadowed by a terrible act. Caution screamed in my mind, a sensible voice telling me to keep my distance. But another voice, a softer, more inquisitive whisper, urged me closer. I saw not just a fugitive, but a man of conviction, a man searching for a place to rest his weary soul. Over the days and weeks that followed, Moses became a part of our landscape. He was a skilled shepherd, patient and gentle with the animals. He would sit with my father for hours, listening to his wisdom, sharing stories of his own people. The Hebrews, enslaved in the land he'd escaped, I would watch them from a distance, my heart a battlefield. My loyalty to Midian, to my family, was the bedrock of my existence. Yet, this outsider, this man with a haunted past, was slowly, carefully, chipping away at my defenses. His eyes held a sorrow I couldn't comprehend, but also a depth that promised a world beyond the dunes of Midian. We began to talk, not of his past, not at first. We spoke of the stars, of the stubborn desert plants that clung to life, of the simple joys of a cool evening breeze. In his presence, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known I was missing. My heart, once so firmly anchored to my home, was drifting on an unknown tide, pulled toward him. The struggle was immense. To love him was to embrace a future that was not written in the sands of Midian. It was to invite uncertainty, to welcome a man whose history was a mystery, and whose destiny was a blank page. But the more I knew him, the less his past mattered, and the more his presence became a necessity, like water in the desert. My father, in his wisdom, saw the bond between us and gave me to him in marriage. I became the wife of Moses, the stranger from Egypt, and for a time our life was a quiet stream, flowing peacefully through the years. We built a life together. We had sons. The desert that had once been the boundary of my world became the peaceful backdrop to our shared existence. The past seemed to fade, and Egypt was just a distant memory in my husband's stories. I thought this was our forever. I thought this quiet life was his destiny and mine. How wrong I was. I'll never forget the day he came back from the mountain, from Horeb. It wasn't the sun that burned in his eyes. It was something else, something holy and terrifying. He was transfigured, shaken to his very core. He spoke of a bush that burned but was not consumed, of a voice that called his name from the fire, the voice of his God, the God of his ancestors. He told me of a divine calling, a mission to return to the land he fled, to confront the most powerful man in the world and demand the freedom of his people. As he spoke, a cold dread washed over me. This wasn't the man I had married. The quiet shepherd was gone, replaced by a prophet, a reluctant leader burdened with an impossible task. Fear was a physical thing, a knot of ice in my stomach. This God he spoke of was not the God I knew. This mission was madness. It meant leaving everything: my home, my family, the only life I had ever known. It meant walking into the heart of an empire that had cast him out. Doubt was a poison in my mind. Was he deluded? Had the solitude of the mountain broken him? How could one man, my husband, stand against a Pharaoh? I looked at our sons, and my heart ached with the choice before me. I could refuse. I could beg him to stay, to forget this vision, to choose the safety of our family over the fate of a people he barely knew. But then I looked into his eyes, and I saw the fire that he had seen. The divine spark had ignited his soul, and I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that he would go, with or without me. And in that moment, I had to choose my past or his future, my comfort or his calling, my home or my love. My heart broke for the life we were leaving, but it broke more at the thought of letting him face this terrifying destiny alone. The journey out of Midian was a blur of dust and tears. Every step away from my father's tents felt like a betrayal. I was leaving the warm embrace of my family for a future shrouded in uncertainty and danger. The faces of my sisters, the familiar landscape of my childhood. I was sacrificing it all. I packed not just our belongings, but the memories of a lifetime, sealing them away in my heart. The desert, once my comforting home, now seemed hostile and endless. I carried my youngest son, feeling the weight of his small body and the even heavier weight of my decision. There were moments of profound fear. The whispers of resentment from those who traveled with us were sharp as stones. To them, I was the outsider, the Midianite woman, a reminder of a life their leader had lived while they suffered. They didn't see my sacrifice. They didn't see the home I had abandoned, the family I had left weeping. They only saw a foreign face. There was a moment, a terrifying night on the road, when a darkness seemed to fall upon my husband, a divine anger that I could not understand. In a flash of desperate clarity, I knew what I had to do. In a raw, primal act of faith and protection, I performed the rite of our covenant for our son, a ritual to appease this powerful, jealous God. It was a moment born of fear, yes, but also of a fierce, protective love. In that instant, I was not just Moses' wife. I was a protector of his destiny. I had to find a strength I never knew I possessed. It wasn't a loud, heroic strength, but a quiet, enduring one. It was the strength to silence my own doubts when I saw the fear in his eyes. It was the strength to comfort my children when the journey was hard and the future was frightening. It was the strength to stand by his side, a silent pillar of support, even when I felt like crumbling. I chose this path. I chose him. I left Zipporah, the daughter of Midian, by the well where we first met, and I became Zipporah, the wife of Moses, a woman walking out of the wilderness and into the pages of history, carried forward by a love that demanded everything and a faith that was forged in sacrifice. My journey had just begun.